everyone, and welcome to Planet Green, Ecodistricts, and Green Zoning, instructed by Matthew Colglazer and brought to you by the Green Building Research Institute. Here you'll see photos of our team and contributors. At GBRI, we pride ourselves on the diversity of our instructors and all of our course content. Now I'd like to give you a little bit of information about our instructor for today. Today's instructor is Matthew Colglazer, Lead AP BD&C, and also partner at Bright House Designs, LLC. Matthew attended The Ohio State University, where he studied architecture, graphic design, and photography. Over the past 2 decades, he has worked in both the design profession and as a general contractor, and is a past project and sustainability director at the largest brand consultancy in the world. Matthew was invited to join the public sector in 2010 under a grant from the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, where he was a housing specialist and zoning inspector for a city with over 56,000 residents. And
like many of you out there, I can think of a number of ways to spend my afternoon instead of sitting in front of the computer screen listening to someone drone on. So I've done my best to make this course both informative and informal. I certainly hope you can appreciate my dry sense of humor. With that said, let's all put on our thinking caps and get to work. This is an extremely interesting point in time for humanity. Our world is experiencing unprecedented growth to the point that the world population is quickly approaching 9 billion people. Now, most of this growth is occurring in what we commonly refer to as underdeveloped areas of the planet. As such, we're also seeing an increase in development of urban areas. More and more small villages are gradually growing into more dense urban areas. In fact, for the first time in the history of mankind, more people live in cities right now than in the outlying areas of civilization. We've crossed that threshold from a mostly rural human population into being a mostly urban human population. Let's take a look at this chart developed by the World Health Organization. You'll see that in 1990, less than 40% of all people living on the planet inhabited cities. By 2010, just a few short years ago, we had hit the halfway mark, meaning that we had just as many folks living in the cities as we did in the country. Projecting this out until 2050, the World Health Organization predicts that over 70% of all people living at that time will be inhabitants of cities. That being said, it's more important today than ever before that our leaders adequately plan for growth in our urban areas. Now, cities do provide good opportunities for concentration of jobs and services, healthcare, education, and they offer consolidation of costly infrastructure and improvements to our built environment. However, this concentration of people also poses great risks and hazards for the population as well as for the environment. The rapid increase of people living in cities will certainly be one of the most important global health issues of the 21st century. And as urban growth outpaces the ability of governments to build essential infrastructure, we're seeing that right now, 1 in 3 urban dwellers is living in substandard conditions. What does this challenge mean to all of us? How can we plan for this rapid increase in growth? And most importantly, can we continue to use fossil fuels for transportation and power generation and expect to survive into the next millennium? Or even the next century for that matter? As we move forward, our governing bodies, as well as all of us as citizens, should be addressing a very important question. How do our urban centers plan now for the development of safe, healthy, and sustainable communities in the future? Before we go any further, let's lay some groundwork for the remainder of our discussion today. First, I'd like to remind us all of the definition of sustainable development that we were given by the Brundtland Commission under the mandate of the 1983 United Nations General Assembly. I know we've all heard this before, but stick with me. As identified by this commission, sustainable development meets the needs of today without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This essentially means that as we design, construct, and inhabit new development, we should always maintain a healthy and reverent balance between people, the planet, and of course profit. I know. Another approach to planning and zoning efforts is based upon goal-oriented criteria for proposed development projects. A point-based system is often utilized wherein the developer can apply credits toward meeting established zoning goals. These credits are often presented in an a la carte menu fashion, which provides for some goals such as limiting of environmental impact, provision of public amenities, or development of affordable housing, to name a few. Considered to be a discretionary form of zoning administration, this approach is commonly referred to as performance or effects-based zoning. Up to this point in our course, we've been focusing on planning efforts based upon the segregation of land uses and the definition of zones of similar activities. Before we move into our discussion of the Ecodistricts concept, I'd like to take a few minutes to explore the idea of a neighborhood. Specifically, we'll dive into the definition of neighborhood development as provided by the USGBC. In their introduction to the Lead for Neighborhood Development rating system, the USGBC reminds us that the population in the United States continues to expand rapidly and further consume land in the process, currently at a rate of 3 times our growth in population. Our development model over the past 50 years has been built upon the principles of Euclidean zoning, with segregated land uses accessed by means of highway travel and automobiles. In the United States, transportation accounts for roughly 1/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions, increasing air pollution and respiratory disease. The sprawling nature of our current development patterns, as discussed earlier, simply stated, are not viable solutions moving forward. Through the Lead for Neighborhood Development model, the USGBC proposes a return to traditional planning methods.